Okay, so very good afternoon, one and all. Once again, I welcome you to this 14th session of this FDP on quantum artificial intelligence. This is going to be the last session of this FDP. And again, we are going to have with us Mr. Srinjoy Ganguly, sir, the IBM quantum developer. And the session topic will be multi-class margin classifier and convolutional neural networks with PennyLane. So in this session, sir will address us about the multi-class margin classifier and convolutional neural networks with PennyLane. So sir will cover the foundation concepts of a multi-class classifier and its PennyLane implementation. So we will cover an advanced quantum machine learning algorithm, which is the convolutional neural network, which is again equivalent to the classical convolutional neural networks. So also, sir will guide us about implementation of convolutional networks in PennyLane. So on behalf of all attendees and organizers, I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Srinjoy sir once again. So sir, please join us and let us start
Yeah,
with.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all right. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. And yeah, it is sad to see that, yeah, this is the last session, but yeah, I really enjoyed all the sessions and all the interactions, really. And I look forward to keeping in touch with everyone. Yeah, so let us begin. So to again some advanced topics we will cover, and again I assume that everyone knows intermediate machine learning and deep learning stuff. So I will just go over through the, like, the quantum part which is happening, and yeah, like the rest of it is like it is classical, as you all know. So small part quantum and large part classical. So I feel like this is more of like not QML but classical ML, but actually this is QML only, and slowly the quantum part will increase in the future. All right, so I will start sharing. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
I think it's visible.
Yes.
It's visible,
Yes, it's
isn't it, sir?
yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. So yeah, so let us get started with the two topics. So I will first cover, as I am already doing, you all know my pattern. I will first cover the theory, and then the same theory you will find that in code. So code won't be difficult. It's like same as theory only. And so this is the overview. So we will first see multi-class margin classifier. Actually, this is a classical machine learning concept. Like this is like multi-class SVM concept actually. So I will not go into so much details, but I will just explain you the main thing. What is the main thing here? And then what we do is that we will see it with PennyLane, and then we will see something called convolutional neural networks. This is a bit interesting. You all know convolutional neural network, which is the classical part. This is like convolutional, so like quantum convolutional neural network, something like that. So how a quantum convolution happen, we will see the algorithm and the process diagrammatically also, and I will write down the steps also. Okay, so let us first start with the multi-class margin classifier. Oh, let me select something. All right. So again, to give you a motivation, this is from the classical SVM part. Okay, so this classifier is actually from classical support vector machine, and we will be dealing with which one? the multi-class margin SVM, okay, linear SVM. And there are actually two parts to this. One is like one versus one, and another one is one versus many. So we will be dealing with this one. So one versus many means like there are many classifiers. Many classifiers means there are many SVMs. So for example, the concept goes like this. Like there will be many SVMs, like this is like, for example, let me draw it like this. Okay.
నాడు వాడు సప్పంగుందో అంటున్నాడు.
So maybe this is like, this is SVM1. Okay, then you have SVM2. Okay, this is the concept of one versus many in multi-class margin SVM. Okay, and this is classical ML. I will not go into details, but this is the concept which we will be using. Okay, this is classical ML, remember. This is not quantum. Then maybe you have another SVM, and maybe till n, maybe how much ever SVM you want, you can have, and each SVM will give you a prediction. So each will give you some label predictions. So each will give you some label predictions. So same here, same here, same here. Each will give you label predictions, and then what you do. So let me define this, that there are several classifiers. Okay, and output of ith classifier, which is what, which is ci. Okay, output of, let us assume that it is ci. You can take any alphabet if you want. Let us assume output of ith classifier is ci, and input is 1. So like, all the inputs will go here. So let me also draw that these will be the inputs will go. So inputs will go here, and we have input. Let us take our usual notation. Input x is your data. Okay. Then it is a, what is it? It is a score. It is a score. Okay, so the output of ith classifier is a score si, which belongs to what? Which is between this one, -1 and 1. So it assigns a score, like for which class it belongs. So there may be like maybe 3 classes or 4 classes. Okay, and it's like a multi-class, isn't it? Multi-class margin. So that means there are multiple classes, and you want to predict from which class it belongs. So what this each classifier will do, it will assign a score according to the data it is given, to identify which class it belongs to. So for example, we have cats, dogs, and elephants. Okay, so maybe, in your input, so if you take, maybe this is cats, this is dogs, and maybe, this is elephant. Okay, and now each will, like, predict whether the data which is getting is cat or not, or dog or not, so like that. And then a loss will be calculated. So then an average of loss will be calculated. All right, so let me first give this one. So si is like this. Si is equal to ci xi, sorry, not xi, x, and then you have this one and the parameters. So what it does, so multi-class margin, and this is the process. Multi-class margin loss attempts to ensure that the score for the correct class, or the correct class is higher than that of incorrect classes by some margin, and that margin is a hyperparameter. That means you can choose the margin according to your needs. Okay. So now this means that for, and I will now define the loss because that is actually the most important part. You will see for a sample x, y, where y denotes the class labels, we can analytically express the multi-class loss. Express the multi-class loss on this sample. So maybe this sample may be a picture of cat, or maybe, anything. It can be anything, and you are just going to calculate the loss. This is all like classical part. In the demo, I will show you the quantum part as like this. So we actually use this in our demo. So that's why I'm defining it, so that it is easier, so it becomes easier for you to appreciate. And then you take a max of 0 comma sj minus sy. So sy is the, like, it's the, like, the class. It's like the label which you are considering at the moment, and plus a delta. So delta is the margin actually. That's why multi-class margin classifier. That is how the name comes, margin. So let us take an example maybe, then it will be clear. So if S is equal to 13 minus 7 and 11. So these are the scores which we get. So maybe 13 is for, like, maybe cat. So you want to, like, you are in the cat stage, so you want to predict a cat. So now these are the scores which you got from your classifiers. And yi is equal to 0, which is like the first class. Maybe that is cat. Let us assume it is cat, is true. So if the first class is true, it means that you can now calculate the loss as max and then 0. Then again, you can do this calculation. This is S, this is what? Sj, this is Sy, because this is the class which you are considering. 13, the first one. Okay, the first class. Plus, let us assume that delta is equal to 10. So you take delta as 10. Plus, again, this is the average of all the classifiers. Each classifier is predicting some score. So you have to take the average. And then you get this point. Okay, now if you see, you will see that actually it will be able to say that yes, 13 is large. Okay, 13 is the most probable class. So that means all the classifiers should be predicting, even though some of the classifiers may be making a mistake also. But that is how this loss is defined. That is why it uses this max term. And that is why it says that due to the presence of that max term, you will be able to, with the help of this margin loss, you will be able to classify your data correctly. Because now you are taking, this is like taking suggestions from everyone and then doing the thing, like, it is like a majority vote count, something like that. You can consider this like a majority vote count. Who wins? Like the majority wins. So if the majority says yes, it is a cat, okay, then it is a cat. So this loss function just says it mathematically. That's it. So majority says it's a cat. First one is a cat, so it is a cat. So is this part clear? Because now I'm going to move to the demo. Let me check the chat box.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah. This is like, I will not go into so much details. There are other stuff also. This is actually classical ML. This is not something which is quantum or something. You will see that mostly we are discussing classical stuff and not quantum at all. Okay, so let me show the demo. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for the confirmation. So let me show you. So this is the demo. This also has been adapted from a tutorial in PennyLane, which you can find in the link. And it uses some circuit architectures from these two papers. So let me show you those papers. This is the first paper. You will find the link in the notebook. I have provided the link here. So this is the first paper. Okay, and from here only we will be taking the circuit architecture, but mostly from this one. So this one. Okay, all right. Yeah, also I just forgot to say, like recently I was running a quantum machine learning study group at QWorld. So we discussed this paper already there. Now it is closed. Like I closed it. Like I was running it for like past 6 months, and I took approximately 10 lectures there, where we discussed like 4 or 5 research papers on quantum machine learning. And it was associated with QWorld. So I requested QWorld, and they told me that yes, you can form a study group. And few person joined, and then we used to discuss those papers of QML, because QML is mostly in the research stage, and there is only one book by Maria and Francesco, which you will find, like supervised learning on quantum computing, like that. If possible, I will share the book with you all. I will share it with the deliverables, and maybe you can have a look at that. That actually, like all the things which we are actually doing, they are actually from that book only, because that is that is the only one which we have. All right, so here again we go. So here we again consider multi-class linear SVM. Now you all know, okay, one versus all classifier, you all know one versus all, and we will be applying this to iris flower dataset. Again elementary dataset we will take. And now what we will do is that each classifier will have its own variational circuit. Of course, it needs to have, because this is SVM. So like each should have a separate, it should have a separate circuit associated with that. So it makes sense from this diagram that yeah, we should have separate circuits for that. So separate circuit means separate Q nodes, isn't it? Because in PennyLane you work with Q nodes. So that means you need to have separate Q nodes which are wrapped, like the Q node consists of a variational circuit plus the quantum simulator. So that gives a one package. So that means you will have Q node 1, Q node 2 for each classifier. All right, so here we define some parameters. We defined the margin, delta, the number of classes is 3, then the batch size, then the learning rate. So we will be using Adam here. Maybe you can try with other optimizers. Again, that is just an experiment for you to perform. And we will go for 100 iterations and all those stuff. This will be the training data and test data splitting, like 75% training and 25% for the testing set and all those. So there will be 4 features. All right, this is the simulator, which you all know. Then again, we define a layer. So I think I will run away through the code will be quickly, because this is all you are all familiar. We are just writing a loop and iterating through the number of qubits and applying some rotation gates. That's it. Then we apply some entanglement using C0. So once you are familiar with the quantum computing concepts and the machine learning, which you all know, then it makes a lot of sense, like how it is working. And the Q node explanation you will find here. So I have given explanation in between. So maybe you can pause and give it a read. Like that only. So we are just wrapping up in Q node and that one, and we will use amplitude and embedding here. That means amplitude encoding, which I showed you before, how we can encode data in amplitudes. Then after layer, this is much like the previous one, the variational quantum classifier, which we covered. You define the layer, you define the circuit. Then for this one, you also have to define like nodes, a list of nodes, where each node is a SVM. Each node is a multi-class SVM. Okay, so that it is like, you know, SVM1, SVM2. Okay, so let me just write it maybe for clarity in notes. Okay, so this is also like, you know, Q node 1, this is Q node 2. Okay, Q node 3 up to, we will go, and Q node n, and each Q node consists like this. Okay, what the Q node consists of? It consists your quantum function. Quantum function means your circuit, the quantum circuit, the quantum function, and your quantum simulator. So this is a like package. So in our case, the quantum function is a variational circuit with layers, which I have defined with some rotation and then all those stuff, you know. All right, then we again the same process. We just like before we define the variational classifier, and then this is the important function. So this function is actually, you can see torch dot max zeros float. Can you see this expression? This expression is this one LXY, this one. This is that expression. SJ, can you see? SJ, S true means SY. Can you compare this? I think it is making sense now. This is in line with the theory, isn't it? Let me see. Where is that? Yeah. Yeah, someone said please. Yeah, sure, sir. I will share the book. You don't have to worry. I will share that book, and yeah, I will share the papers even. Even though the paper links are actually there, so the sharing won't be necessary because I will be sharing you the notebook. So you can click on those. They are archive links, and you can download the PDF. But that part, is it clear? Okay, clear. All right, great. Because it is all with the theory, you know, which that's why I explained that you before. Yeah, that is my style. I just explained it to you before so that you can appreciate. Okay, that yeah, that is how we are applying. So you know, this is we are just converting it into float in case if it is in integer. So we take like, you know, SJ. So SJ, you can see that we are getting the predictions from our variational classifier, and then just putting it into this torch dot. Okay, we are using PyTorch actually, but maybe you can use other stuff also. But yeah, PyTorch is also like nice to work with. So maybe you should also try PyTorch. And also you can do it in TensorFlow also. It really doesn't matter, but yeah, you can do it like that. Okay, so this is that same function you will see. We define loss, we define samples, we calculate the S true first, convert it into float. Then we define this loss Li, we initialize it with 0. Then we do the same process for Sj, again get predictions. Then we, you know, calculate this value Sj minus S2 plus margin. That's it, the formula implementation. So actually only this part was the important. That's why I gave you the theory. Rest of the part actually they are not like, you know, they are very intuitive. You already know. It's like, you know, you build a classify function for classification. Everyone knows that. You build the accuracy function for accuracy. You will find this function even before also. Like we defined a separate accuracy for VQC. So it's the same stuff everywhere. So nothing too much to explain. Just we will predict the labels with the help of our variational classifier again, and we get the scores here. So this classifier will actually return your like predicted labels. Okay, maybe I should just a minute. Or maybe I could have okay, is this style also fine? Like I am like, you know, first explaining multi-class, then the practical, then after that convolutional. Is this style fine with everyone? Or do you want me to explain convolutional first? Like, should I continue with this one, like this multi-class? Let me complete this, maybe, and then I can explain convolutional, I think.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. If that is fine with everyone, that's yeah, fine. Actually, sir, I like, you know, I forgot and suddenly started to explain the code. Okay. All right. So this is pre-processing. You know, you take the data, convert it into tensor, then you normalize them, all those stuff, you know. This is all like classical pre-processing. This is nothing. Just you are doing classical pre-processing. And this everyone knows that we have to split the data. We define the parameter of a 0.75. So that will be used, you know, that will be used in that function. And we just, we just tried to make the code modular. That's why we defined separate functions. If you have ever, like, programmed in Julia, like how many of you are familiar with Julia language? Let me ask this. If you have coded with Julia, you will see that, yeah, mostly you define functions. In Python, like, classes are also defined and everyone, but in Julia, mostly like functions. Has anyone coded with Julia before? No.
No, sir.
Okay. It's fine. Yeah, you do not need to know Julia, of course. I'm just I'm just comparing two programming languages. That's it. Yeah, just for, like, Okay, yeah, not a problem, sir. Yeah, then Julia needs not to be known. I'm just saying, like, features. Like in Julia, you do not code with classes, like classes, objects, you do not define. You mostly write modular code like this, like functions. So it suddenly reminded me of Julia because I have coded in Julia, and it is like, Julia is more machine learning and data scientist friendly, actually. The syntax is very similar. The syntax, I can say, it is a mixture of Python and MATLAB. So you will see very same kind of syntax in Julia, and if you code, you will really enjoy. It's a really enjoyable experience because it is more like, it can run code inherently on your GPU also, like the CUDA. Like in Python, you use so many things, like you install so many libraries and all those stuff for CUDA to run your deep learning or machine learning code on the GPU. Like it becomes hectic. But in Julia, it's not that hectic. You just install a few libraries of CUDA and just the proper CUDA toolkit you should have installed, and you are good to go. You can directly start GPU programming. So that's, that is nice feature of Julia. Maybe everyone should give it a try. If you give it a try, let me know. It's nice, actually. And this function, this might seem complicated, but this is not complicated. You will actually find this code in the PyTorch documentation. If you go to PyTorch documentation, you will find this same kind of code. This is the same kind of training code which is used everywhere while training like training a classifier with PyTorch. So what we do is that we just define our optimizer, we define our parameters. Okay, we defined the parameters, and then we start training the classifier with the loop. So we go till all the iterations. If you remember, we defined the total iterations to be 100. So it was for this reason, because we will use it for training. So we define the iterations, then again the same procedure. We define a batch, we take we take the training as a mini batch. We take the labels associated with them in the mini batch. Then we use the optimizer, we calculate the cost. How will we calculate? Now we can use the multi-class SVM loss. And backward, that means back propagation. So that actually happens with the shift rule. Parameter shift rule is actually used in back propagation. So something like that. And then we do, and this is simple. We just get the scores from that classify predicted labels for train, test, and we calculate the accuracy, and we keep on printing it. Finally, we append them so that we can plot them. So we append them in cost, then training accuracy, test accuracy. Once we append them, then we can use that to plot. So you will get this output. If I have already ran this code, I urge everyone to run this code. As Ms. Gopika mentioned, you can set up a separate environment in Python, and you can install, like, pip install PennyLane, and then the Qiskit plugin as well, like pip install PennyLane -Qiskit. If you run these codes, the Qiskit and PennyLane both will be installed. The new version, you will get the new version. For me, it's the old version. But I urge you that you do this, and then you will get this night plot. Let me show that plot. Yeah, this one. So you can see that the cost, the red one, is decreasing with each iteration, and the accuracy is increasing. So we have reached, like, more than 90%, like, near to 100. You can see the accuracy here. Accuracy train 0.96, the convergence, and this is 0.97 at iteration 100. This line. Okay, so this is how the multi-class is actually working, and this is just, again, more classical, less quantum, you can say, but yeah, only the variational circuit part is quantum. But this is actually important to note that these algorithms are hybrid, and currently, due to the NISQ era, we are dependent upon hybrid stuff because quantum computers are not perfect. So we have to be dependent like this, and maybe after few years we will. But still, yeah, even after few years, even if quantum computers get perfect, still we will require classical post processing. It won't be like, yeah, we can't get rid away of classical. Actually, that will be our forever friend. Even if, because quantum computing, as I told you in the very beginning, it is suitable for certain class of problems. So you will see that there are certain applications being applied to quantum. Not everywhere it is used. Look, so like for example, I am a big fan of video gaming. I love to play games. So I can't use a quantum computer to play game. Maybe in future we can. Maybe like when it gets the capability to process graphics, that will be really amazing. And the next topic is really about this, like processing graphics using a convolutional neural network. That's why I wanted to show that to you. And that brings me this topic, that maybe in future we can process graphics, and maybe then we can process something with the um, with the quantum computers. All right. So can I proceed to the next topic, convolutional?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all right. That's great. All right. So okay. So let us see convolutional. So again, the same procedure. I will start with the motivation about a convolutional neural network. I will not go into explaining what is a CNN and all those stuff. Just a brief demo to give you the motivation. So what actually CNNs do? CNNs can capture spatial and temporal dependencies in an image through through the through the application of relevant filters. Okay, the filters are actually the kernel, the convolution kernel. This means that CNN reduce the images, like the size of the images, into a form which is easier to process, because dealing with the images is like, a lot of computational power is required. If the images have more like if they have more dimensions, like when you go towards like quad HD or full HD or 4K and all those stuff, then the image processing becomes really computationally expensive, because there are a lot of pixels to process. That's why what CNN does is that it reduces the images into a form which is easier to process without losing features, which are critical for getting a good prediction. All right, so this is what is like CNNs do. So what CNN will do, now I will just explain it briefly in a diagram, and then we will move towards the quantum part. So you have this image. In the image, you apply convolution layer, which is also known as kernel or filter. Then you apply max pooling. Then you apply flatten. So flatten means converting the max pooled vector into, like, 1D, like a column vector, so that can be, fed through into a fully connected NN neural network. And then maybe you can use a softmax or any, like, to get predictions or something. Then you will get predictions here. What was the image? Like maybe the image was a cat image, and you want to get prediction that whether it predicted the cat or not according to the provided data set. So you start something like this. So now a brief diagrammatic representation. So if you have this image, and this image is like 5x5, then you can maybe use this kernel which slides over this image. So this kernel 3x3 will slide over that image and capture the spatial and temporal dependencies present in the image. That is why convolution is used for that only. It is useful for capturing, because what is convolution? Because convolution is nothing but the area of overlap. That is what we study in signal processing. Convolution is the area of overlap of two functions. So here is one function, this kernel. Here is another function, image is also a function, and B, the areas get overlapped. So overlap of area means you are essentially capturing the spatial and temporal dependencies present in the image. And then finally, what you do, you take another kernel. This also is another kernel, and you slide it through this convolved feature. This feature. So you slide through this. And after you slide, what you take the maximum value of the pixel. So maybe this box, this 2x2 is kept here, and whatever be the numbers. So for example, if we got like this 13, 20, 7, 10, okay, then if this one comes, then this will do max pooling. So it will only pick 20. Similarly, like, it will come here, then it will pick some other large number. So max, it will pick the maximum number. After doing that, the vector which we will get, that will be very shortened, and now you will be able to convert it into this column vector, which is actually your extracted. This is your extracted feature. This is your extracted feature, and then you put this extracted feature into a network. So maybe you have a fully connected network, and you start putting them like that. And then you get predictions. What was the image? Was it a cat or not? Okay, so that is how CNN. So I hope that this is clear. This is just classical CNN. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
how do
sir.
you choose the filter? Sir, what is the criteria for choosing the filter? Or it is available?
Predictors are actually it is dependent, sir. Like if you want to do binary like classification, like like for example cat or dog, then you can choose some binary function like a sigmoid, for example, which actually helps you to classify two different classes. If you want to do multi-class, then you can use softmax, which I showed you. So maybe you want to predict cats, dogs, and elephant and lion also, 4 classes. So then you can use a softmax, and softmax will generate probabilities just like sigmoid does. But softmax supports multiple classes.
So it is depending on number of classes, you have to choose the filter.
Yeah, in the output layer, it is dependent upon the classes. That is why before any machine learning work, first we decide that, like, what is the problem, whether it is a regression or whether it is a classification. Then we go about, okay, what will be our output. If it is a regression, then we should use the loss functions accordingly. If it is a classification, then the loss function will be different. Okay, and then in the output layer, then we define that which one should we use to get our predictions. So for classification, mostly we predict with the probabilities, that with how much probability the particular class is appearing. So like that, classical ML concepts. So I hope that is clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So I hope that everyone is clear with this. And is everyone clear? Um, okay, these are previous. Yes, I was I was getting confused. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
1251. It's 13. Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, ma'am. So yeah, then I will proceed to, yeah. Now it's 13. Yeah, because I was like confused that yes, sir, yes, sir is written. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Nice. So this is classical CNN. Everyone knows. Now, what is the quantum part? That's the interesting stuff. This is really something interesting to me, as like, because I love games. And games actually gave you that GPUs. GPUs came because of gamers only. If you don't know, because we play games, that's why it requires high number of graphics processing pixels. And that's why the GPU architecture is something different, which I mentioned in the previous class. It is like parallel. And but quantum is also parallel, isn't it? Because of superposition, but it is inherently parallel. You don't have to make it parallel like GPU. So that's the difference. So this is, one of the first step of graphics processing, using a convolutional neural network. So convolutional. That's why this is interesting. And maybe like you can also pursue research in this area, maybe. So actually, there are no full forms, but if I write QNN, actually QNN is used for quantum neural network. So I will just write QANNN just for now. All right. So let me first define the algorithm. Okay, how this quantum convolution actually happens. Okay, so how this algorithm works. Let me define, and then I will show you the diagram. And you will find the same diagram in the notebook as well. I will show you the demo, then you will see that it is the same diagram. Okay, so since you are clear with CNN, you can appreciate it, Quan NN. So first step, a small, and maybe, I would suggest that you write these steps in your notebook. It is already there in the notebook, of course. Like Jupyter Notebook also, I have written this. So a small region of input image, like let us say 2 cross 2. When I draw the diagram, it will be clear to you. So let us say 2 cross 2 square you take from the image which you have, like maybe the cat image, and that is embedded. That is that those pixel values present in the image are embedded into a quantum circuit. So now you can see how the things are happening. In the classical, there is no embedding, but for the quantum machine learning, everywhere you will first apply the embedding. That means convert your classical data into quantum states, anything you want with that. Second step, a quantum computation associated, a quantum computation associated to a unitary. Then you define a unitary matrix, a unitary transformation. U is performed, which can be any random quantum circuit, but maybe you can try different architectures as well. There is a paper. I will share that paper. We discussed that during our quantum machine learning study group. It gives you some ansatz. What is ansatz? Okay, I haven't defined ansatz. I think, what is ansatz? Ansatz is your all those variational circuit. This is just another name. All those variational circuits. So we have different ansatz. So we have different variational circuit architectures in that paper. It is a research paper. I will share with you after this session, and you can have a look, and maybe you can try to manually create those circuit and run this QNN through those. Now we will be using some random circuit. I will show you in the demo, then you will understand what I'm saying. Associated to a unitary is sorry, not uh, on this system. Okay, on this system means that quantum circuit, like after you apply some like embedding through the rotation gates, maybe you do angle encoding or anything, amplitude encoding, then you just put it through some circuit which is a unitary. Then in the third, what you do, quantum system is finally measured. Quantum system is finally measured and we obtaining. So what we obtaining a list of course we will obtain classical values only, not quantum states, because we have taken the measurement. After we take the measurement, it collapses. So the list of classical expectation values. And the next step, then the fourth step, is that each of these values, like which we received, each of like these expectation values, expectation. Each of these expectation values is mapped. It is mapped to a different channel. So we create a channel using some matrix or something, and then we just start mapping them. It's like, storing all those values. Like you are iterating through all the pixels in your cat image and running the quantum circuit, this like encoding and that unitary, then taking measurement, and then, storing all those values into those channels. How that happens pictorially, I will show you, and then you will understand actually what is the process. Is mapped to a channel of a single output pixel. And the last step is, as you all know, we have to repeat this for the entire image. So that is the last step. Repeat steps first to fourth, not fifth. Fourth to get the multi-channel image. Okay, so this is the algorithm. I hope that this algorithm is clear to everyone, because now I'm going to draw this algorithm pictorially.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, I can see. All right. Okay, again, these are previous responses. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so all right. Yeah, so let us proceed. Then let me show you this algorithm diagrammatically. Then you will appreciate more how you are, like, using this. This is like, opening a new era of quantum computing, which even I am also interested, and maybe you also are interested, which is known as quantum image processing. If you are more curious, there is a IBM Qiskit demo available. It's a bit advanced, but you can go through it. It is really nice, actually. I was really happy to see that yeah, we can now do image processing with quantum computers. And this is, one of those steps. This is something like, you can say we are doing quantum deep learning, not even machine learning, because CNN is a part of deep learning. All right, so okay, let me draw this one. This line. Okay, we have this image, Remember the first step. Take a 2x2 square and embed it into a quantum circuit. That means we have to use some encoding scheme. So let us say we are encoding it in angles, maybe. So let us take a 2x2 pixel like this. Okay. And start encoding it like this. Observe how I am converting this algorithm into diagram. Let us say ry. You can use rx, ry. Yeah, it's like, it's all your wish. That's all up to you. Take those pixels and do a quantum embedding. This is the first step we are doing. This is the first step of the algorithm. Ry theta 2. Then we have this step, the third pixel. Okay, like this. Ry theta 3. And then finally this one, the fourth pixel. Okay, this is the first part, and we initialize the states in 0. So yeah, you can initialize them in 0. Just this is more like, this is which you saw, like this is more like a quantum algorithm which we studied. Initialize the states in 0. Okay, then do something, apply some superposition, then some oracle. This is also like, same circuit. Are you all getting this point? This is the first point, first step of the algorithm. I think this is getting clear now. We are just drawing it pictorially. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, that's nice. So, okay, I'm proceeding forward then. Then what we do? Then we apply, what was the next step? A quantum computation associated to a unitary. That means we have to define a unitary. Okay, so let me draw this line. That means a quantum computation associated with a unitary, this one, U, is performed on the system. This is the system. Like, this is the, wait, it says on the system. So actually this is the system. Okay, so you apply this unitary on this system. Then the third step. So this is the first step, this is the first step. This is the second step according to algorithm. Then what is the third step? It says measure. Quantum system is finally measured. So this whole system, after you do, is measured. So let us maybe, apply measurements. Let us apply measurements. Let us third step complete. Okay, third step. Okay, third step. Third step. What is the fourth step? Each expectation value is mapped to a different. Okay, so we get all those expectation values. Here we are getting expectation values. And what they are done, they are mapped to a different channel of a single output pixel, of a different channel. That means 4 expectation values mean different channel means 4 channels, isn't it? That means I have to make 4 channels. So like this, 4 channels. This is the fourth step. Okay, this is the, let me draw it a bit bigger because we have to draw the pixel also, because I have to show you the pixel, single pixel, which is saying in the algorithm. So like this. Okay, then like that. And so 4 expectation, 4 channels, and single pixel. How is single pixel? Like this. Here is the single pixel. Each of these expectation values, what is the fourth step? Each expectation value is mapped to a different channel of a single output pixel. Okay. So I'm just going through the algorithm, nothing much I'm doing, just, giving you the intuition, how that algorithm is working, but in a more pictorial way, so that you can appreciate, because code you will already appreciate because the code is same in this, like this functionality is only included in the code. So the code is not so big or something. Main thing is understanding the concept. So these are our output features. Okay, so these are the features which have been, and this is what is known as quantum convolution. So this is, this is actually your like that kernel. This is doing the function of a kernel. And we have 4 channels, and maybe you can, number them 0, 1, 2, 3. I just numbered them according to the indexing in Python, so that you get it easily. Okay, and this is the third step, and this step is the fourth step of algorithm. Now we have, so what we did in the first step, we encode encode classical image values, image values, image pixel, yeah, anything. Then in the second step, we make using random layers. Random layers means like random quantum circuit layers, you know. Actually, that is what we are using in the demo. That's why I wrote it here so that you can recall it easily according to your convenience. And then we do a measurement. We do a measurement which returns 4 expectation values, and those are fed into the fourth step you already know, so I won't write, which is mapped to different channels of a single output pixel. So single output pixels. Now imagine you have to do this for all the pixels. So there are more pixels, you know, there are more lot of pixels, isn't it? Lot of pixels will be going around and like that. So you will do this process for all, uh, like for the whole image. That is the that is what is fifth step says. Repeat steps 1 to 4 for the whole image, and then finally you will see that all this thing is actually filled, like, you know, filled with all the values and everything. And not only this, but you know, the previous one, and so all this will be completely filled with all the values like that. Okay, so that is how, so everyone can appreciate the concept now diagrammatically. Now I think this is like, you know, this is now become very easy now.
Yes, sir.
Graphics processing using, yeah, quantum computers. And yeah, this is really wonderful, because CNN is one of my personal favorite topics, and to see it in quantum world, that is something really nice. All right, so this is how um, the convolutional neural networks actually work. And now let me show you the demo. So I hope that this is clear. Yes, I received yes. Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. So can I move to the demo? The demo is also very straightforward, actually.
Yes, sir.
Like you will understand it in one go, I think. There won't be any doubts. All right. Okay. Let me proceed. Okay. Now, convolutional neural networks. This tutorial you can find, even the tutorial is implemented using this research paper. So this is the research paper. The link is already there, so I won't be sharing this, but yeah, you can download it here. The archive link is given. I just provided you the links for, you know, like if you want to even revise CNN, this is a very nice article which you can read in Towards Data Science and give your CNN concepts, you know, like getting it revised and like that. So this is the paper actually, which they do, and this is the process they have explained. So they just took an example and just fed it through encoding, random quantum circuit, decoding, like that. And they are like, you know, having all those separate channels and creating those stuff. So our diagram is much more simpler than them. Of course, we are doing it like, you know, just reading the algorithm and doing it. So the algorithm is given here. If you are wondering, this is the algorithm 1, 2, 3, this one. These are the steps of algorithm. So yeah, it is a nice process. You can give it a read. Okay, it's really nice to see some CNN. And now let us move back to the demo. All right, so firstly, we import again our usual stuff. We import our libraries. And of course, like, you know, let me also, like, for the sake of completion, just now I remember that after you have these features, you know, after you have these features, like, you know, let me show here. Okay, after you have these features, you know, these output features, you can actually, you just like, you know, you can feed these features into a network, a classical neural network, like that. That is what we will be actually doing, and then you will get your predictions. Okay. So this is actually the final step, the classical, because as you know, all the algorithms are hybrid. So that's why this is the classical step. Okay, I just mentioned this for completion. And yeah, so that is what we are doing. So that's why we imported TensorFlow and Keras, because of this reason. Random layers is what? To create that unitary. That's why I have mentioned you. And yeah, then we define some safe path. Then we define pre-processing, if you want to do pre-processing or not of the images, loading data from the safe path. Like the first time you learn, you won't have anything in the folder, but after you run the code, you will have something in the folder to and then you can actually make the pre-process false if you want to directly use the weights. So like that you can save. And we define seeds, we define epochs, layers. So we use number of layer, random layers 1. Maybe you can, layers means it's something very similar to hidden layer in a neural network, So you can maybe increase that number of layers, maybe 4, 5, 6 or anything. It will take some more time to train, of course. Now in the tutorial, you will find that the dataset they used was MNIST, like in the research paper also. They used MNIST digits actually. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Sorry
ma'am.
to disturb, sir.
No,
There
no
is a
problem.
concept of if we increase the number of layers or if we make the changes in number of epochs, that definitely affect on our result. It's like that. So
Which one? Which one? I sorry, I couldn't got. Like if we
I
increase the
am
layers,
if we increase the number of layers or if we changes in the number of epochs, that definitely affecting on our result.
yeah, definitely it will affect your outcomes. That is why that is a ma'am, that is actually a homework for you to find out. Actually, what I did for this tutorial is that I didn't follow this paper. Okay, in this paper, they are using the MNIST digits dataset. Okay, but I changed the dataset for you, and I want that I did because I want you to explore this. So in this, I am using the fashion MNIST. If you check the tutorial, they are using the digits MNIST. So let me show you. They are actually using this one. Yeah. Can everyone see this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Is it visible? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So they are using this one, but I am not using this one. So I applied some trick. Okay, I just changed the data for you to explore. That's your homework, because then only you will tune the parameters and see how the results are coming. That's what I want you to do actually. And I am not getting a very good result. So I would like you to give me a good result maybe after the session. Experiment with this and mail me the result. Whatever result you have, improve this result. I will show you that we are actually, the quantum layer is performing bad and the classical is performing good. But I want you to improve that by doing these stuff. Maybe you can also try to increase the size of the data set also. Those are all parameters for you to experiment with. So that's the thing. So yeah, so this image you are already familiar. We have discussed this in depth. This algorithm also you are familiar. I have discussed the quantum circuit also. We encode the classical values with RY gates. Then we initialize random layers. If you want to know more about random layers, it's here. I have provided the documentation link. And yeah, also get into a habit of reading documentation, because that is where you will find most of the information. So for example, I can say you my experience. Once there was a small project where we were supposed to generate a CCZ gate, control Z gate, and I was not at all able to find it anywhere. Okay, but actually in the Qiskit documentation there is a way by which you can actually do multiple controls, and if you follow the documentation you will be able to develop a CCZ also. The control Z gate which I showed you, you can find that on Qiskit, but if you want to do a CCZ gate, you have to follow the documentation, and I won't say you the trick. Find it yourself. There are ways in which you can actually develop multi-controlled Z gate or multi-controlled Hadamard. which are not provided by default. So you have to use like, a standard, like, control Z, gate and dot, you have to use some method and then define. So, like that. That's why documentation reading is important. And that's why I provided the link so that everyone goes through this documentation. All right. And then I think everyone knows what is happening here. We have already discussed this. We just encode the classical data, make a U. This is the unitary. And then we make measurements. Isn't it? I think it's very straightforward now. Where is that? Yeah. So I will receive some yes response, I hope. Isn't that intuitive? According to diagram we are doing. Yes, now I received. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Yes. Yes, that's great. Okay. That means we are successful. That means we understand what is convolutional and we can now implement it with the PennyLane. Yeah, where's the code? Yeah, here. So this is that step. This is this step, this one. This whole step is implemented in this function. And then Quan. Okay, Quan is this step. Quan is this step, taking this image and doing that. And storing it into the, no, sorry, not that step, sorry, this step, yeah. Deriving the output features. This is the Quan step. So that is the name of the function, because we are creating different channels, like it's like a different image is being formed here actually with separate channels. So that's why we have named it Quan. Okay, you can see circuit and that JK plus 1, so something like this. Okay, let me give the notations here. Now you will be more clear. So this is JK. This is coordinate JK. Then this will be what? JK plus 1. This one will be what? It should be J plus 1 K. Okay, let me write it again. J plus 1. Okay, this is J plus 1 comma K. I am writing this so that like it becomes very evident for you to follow along with the code, and you will see that it all makes sense. And what will be this one? J plus 1 K plus 1, isn't it? J plus 1 K plus 1. So yeah, that's it. Very simple. So we have done that only. J plus 1 K plus 1. J plus 1 K. And finally we take a loop and we, all those expectation, we assign those expectation values into a out. It's like creating that channel, creating this thing. We are creating this output features. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Sir, in the coding, you have mentioned also J comma K, J comma K plus 1. The third parameter has specified 0. What does it mean, sir?
0, where is 0?
In the coding, sir. And this image J comma K comma 0.
Oh, all right. 0 is the, 0 is that channel. 0 is that number of channels, Yeah, we will be processing, for each step we will be processing and then storing it here in the out one using the Q results we obtain here through the circuit. So that is why. Okay, so I hope that part is clear. That is all.
4 channels, no, sir.
Yeah, 4 channels. Yeah.
But you have mentioned 0, no, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you are actually right. Then maybe okay. I have to check that again. What was 0 used for? I have to check that actually. I will check that and let you know.
Okay.
I will check. Yeah, I will check and let you know what is that 0 for, because I think in the image we are having those coordinates and then we are processing through each of those and storing it in a matrix of 2 cross 2 only. Yeah, out is defined here. So okay, I got it. This is for the single one, Then because here we have 4 channels. Can you see? out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So then
And
this will be just, reapplied again and again to gain 4 channels. Are you getting? Because this is in a loop, you see. This is not outside.
yes,
This is
sir.
inside the loop. You see, this is inside the for loop. So that means we will get the channels, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah. So
sir.
that's the explanation. Okay. That's why we defined 0. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is really the channel. Yeah. And we will just apply in a loop several times and get the results, because you can see that there are 3 parameters: J, this one, K, and this C. C is the channel. So it will go from 0, 1, 2, and like this, because C in range. Can you see, ma'am? This one. Here we are defining that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The channel thing. Yeah. Inside a for loop. This is inside this loop. So yeah. So that is, that is, ma'am, all the step for this image. Yeah, for this diagram, I should say. And then rest of it is very, again, it is very same as like classical machine learning. So I really don't know what to explain, but yeah, again, this is like more like a pre-processing step. We are just defining our safe path. We are defining, like, appending all those these things which we obtain. We are actually appending these things in a list so that we can uh, throw it into a classical neural network. That's why. That is what these all are doing. And we are taking 50 as training and 30 as testing. And this is a number which you can like maybe change and check. If you have more images, then can you like get a better result with a single random layer and like that? Or maybe you can have, because we are having a single random layer here, so maybe you can change that. All right, so this is the input. You can see now this is just plotting code. This is the input, and you can see that at each channel it is able to extract some features. Can you see? This is a shoe, and this is a like a t-shirt. Okay, and what is this? I don't know. So some dress, like it can identify those features. Like more is to check that whether they can identify the features or not, and the quantum circuit was able to extract the features present in this, in all those channels. You can see output 0, 1, 2, 3 here. 0, 1, 2, 3, this one, this numbering. That is like each channel has derived some features. Is this part clear? I think this is very like very obvious, isn't it? Is accuracy affected by encoding method we choose, or it
Yes,
is
sir.
affected by unitary? Okay, sir. Accuracy won't be affected by the encoding method. You can use any encoding method, but yeah, it is affected by the unitary, because again, as I mentioned, you can consider the unitary to be like a hidden layer of a quantum neural network. You can assume it to be like that. So the more layers you have, the better feature capturing capacity your quantum circuit gets, like that. I hope that it is clear. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Clear.
Thank you.
Clear,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Clear.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So let me. So yeah, this is very intuitive to understand. And now, just for comparison, we will just define, just a one Q model, another classical model, and we will just compare. That's it. So when we compare, and this is some details about classical machine learning. I won't explain them. This is like, I have just provided you with some documentation so that you can click and go through and learn about it more. What are the functions we are using, like sparse categorical, and like what is this? Okay, flatten you already know, and dense also, dense creates a like connected neural network. And yeah, because the MNIST dataset which we have, that is like having multiple classes. You can see these are 4 different classes. There are more classes. That's why we use the softmax. And yeah, all those stuff. Optimizer is Adam. Okay, this is all classical stuff. I won't go into this. You can check more in the documentation. And I hope that this is clear with everyone. This is a standard metric, like this is a standard code which you will find even in the documentation of Keras, or even in TensorFlow with some examples. They have trained toy models and they have used this similar kind of code in the documentation. And now we make our Q model. That means the quantum model. So we provide them the train images, the labels, the data validation, the batch size, the epochs. We have defined all these things above. So we just provide them and it starts training. Okay, is this part clear? This is just training part. I think this is more like VQC, which we learned before. Nothing much is different. Is it clear with everyone? Training is the same part.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, ma'am. Okay. So, yeah, that's the training part. And again, we will do this for C model. That means the classical model. So for classical model, we will not provide, quantum trained images because those were quantum pre-processed. We will provide classical images, train image, train labels, all the classical data, and we again train. And you will see that the result 0.5667, we are getting a low accuracy. Okay, this is with one random layer, of course. And for the classical, you will get more. So it's the opposite. So you might say, okay, quantum machine learning is not working, but that is not the case. It is now for you to tune the parameters and check how you can make this graph, how you can make this blue layer above this green layer. That is what happens in the MNIST. If you know, let me show you. That is what happens in the MNIST. I want you to that is why I changed the data set for you to play with. You should play with this and learn how to tune. You see, the blue is above the green. So quantum layer is of course performing better. And here also this is down. But in our case, it is opposite. So now it is your job to get me this result after this session. Okay, this is a homework. So try tuning parameters, check how you can make this better, or maybe try some different, rather than random layers, maybe try using some different parameterized quantum circuit and check how it is working. Is it able to capture the data or not? Maybe first try with increasing the random layers and like that. Maybe you will get the result. Okay, so that is how I would like to conclude with the Quan NN. And that is how you can actually take data set and use. Maybe you should also try with some other data sets as well. They are present in Keras.datasets. And I hope that, yeah, you found it to be valuable. Yes, sir. You can get some advantage, sir. But again, if you, yeah, that actually depends. Like if you are taking small window sizes, yeah, this is one point. Like this is more conceptual related to CNN and not the Quan NN. If you want to take smaller window size, then it will take larger time to compute the convolution. But you will get better features. That's the point. If you increase it to 4x4, then you will slowly start missing out features because each pixel contains those spatial and temporal dependencies. So that's why we keep the window to be a bit smaller so that we can gain as much benefit as possible from the CNN. This is a concept of CNN actually. This is not something related to quantum. Yeah, that's it happens in CNN actually. Quantum is only the variational part you all saw, and rest of it is all classical machine learning. So I think before going through all these sessions in revision, I think everyone should go through machine learning because really almost negligible quantum is happening. So yeah, only variational circuit. That's it. All right. So sir, I think I have concluded. So that is all I wanted to share with everyone. Yeah, last time I have already shared the Qiskit advocate and everything information about that. So I hope that everyone participates in that. And did any one of you registered for the quantum machine learning summer school? Yesterday, the registrations went it was like so quickly, 2000 spots got registered very quick. I was fortunate enough to get my seat. What is the minimum dimension required? Sir, I think I didn't understood your question clearly. Miniaturization. What is miniaturization? Oh, you got your seat. Oh, that's nice, sir. Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah, it actually filled up pretty fast. So yeah, they will again open on June 9th, but this time I do not know when will be the time. But I think yeah, they will open again. And only 4,000 are, I think, allowed. I was reading it somewhere. All right, so that is it. And
Okay, if you have any doubts, please unmute yourself and ask your doubts.
Oh, as per 2x2, 4x4. Yeah, yes, sir. I explained it, sir. Actually, I explained it. Like if it is a CNN question. If you take 2x2, then you are going to extract more features, and then for 4x4 you won't be getting so much features because there are spatial and temporal dependencies in the image. So that's why we keep a smaller size, 2x2. We start with a standard, it is a standard to start with 2x2. Yes, ma'am. How can we apply for the QML, ma'am? Actually, I shared the link. Okay, let me share the link again. Um, all right, let me share that link with everyone. Maybe because if you are not hurry enough, like you have to be on time. If you are not hurry enough, then again all the registrations will go over. So you won't get a chance because this time I think IBM has limited the number. Last time I think it was 5,000 or 6,000 students who enrolled for last summer school. Now this is more like only 4,000 because if they have more number of students, they are not able to give lab access to everyone. So because there are lab activities involved, and those actually suffer if there are lots of. All right, this is the link. Um, so ma'am, please keep an eye out like when they are opening on June 9th, I heard, but what time I don't know. Like for example, yesterday it opened and it was on not yesterday, the day before yesterday, and it was from 9:30 p.m. So from 9:30 p.m. From 1 yeah from 11 o'clock, yeah, I think till we got like 10:30 or 11, all the 2,000 seats got registered. So I have shared the link. I've shared. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes, sir. You are right. There is another summer school by IISER Kolkata. Yeah, I think you will find that link also. I do not have the link currently with me. Okay, maybe let me search. If I find, I will share. So lots of summer schools happening, and okay, might be. Is it this one? Let
I
me
have shared,
see.
sir.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, what is it?
I have shared
Oh,
it.
okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Actually, I also just now copied the link. All right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so mm, yeah, so I hope that everyone appreciates a bit of QML, even though it is very naive. It's not so, yeah, it's like you will see that, yeah, where is the quantum advantage and all those stuff, but we are getting there slowly. Everything is in research, everything takes time. When the classical computers were first developed by IBM in, I think, 1950s or 60s, I think, then slowly people started using. So first they were only provided to businesses. The same pattern is repeating with quantum. Now quantum is only used by various businesses like finance companies or maybe chemistry and all these stuff. And slowly we will also get our own quantum computer to experiment with. And there is actually company in China, I don't remember the name. They have actually released a desktop quantum computer. It is only 2 qubits. I know that is small, but actually they have and it is NMR based. So maybe if you find, just check it out. They actually, that is a desktop grade, like you can keep it on your desk and connect it, and you can actually run it like some basic 2 qubit circuits. Like at least you can run C naught, control Z, and all those stuff. So yeah, that's one of the interesting thing which I found, that people have already started to develop desktop based quantum computers. Of course, the other technologies are currently not suitable because they require cooling. All right, so sir, are you there?
Yes. Yes. So any other doubts? Yes, I'm here, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if all participants are done, we can proceed with the valedictory, I think. I request your helping hand for future learning.
Surely, sir, that is not at all a problem. Uh, I will definitely help, and that's why I shared with you all those stuff. If you become a Qiskit advocate, you can not only involve with me, you can involve with the IBM people as well. And as you already know, they are doing some nice research, and they are like again, like the classical computers, they are also the very first one to develop a fully fledged quantum computer and put it into cloud. And then after that, so many companies followed and started doing it. So yeah, that's why. So definitely, I will be very happy to collaborate in research, to provide training if more training is required. Definitely, our company is providing training. So yeah, and we also provide training on machine learning as well. Thank you so much, sir. It's really nice interacting with everyone. I really had a great time, sir. Okay, I think my camera is off. Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I really had a great time, sir. Like interacting with everyone, and everyone was very supportive. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Everyone
Yes.
enjoyed the sessions, and I hope that the teaching style didn't affect it much because I'm not using slides.
No, sir,
Because everyone. Okay, yeah. What is it, sir?
it was really very nice. The
Okay, yeah.
presentation.
Thank you.
Very
Not using slides.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, because ma'am, everyone uses slides. I thought that maybe, like sometimes reading from slides is a bit boring. So what I did was just write down things so that you also write down with me and gain a better understanding. So when we write down things, this is what my father also says, that whenever you write down, you retain and understand better. That's what I learned from him. That's why I write down things always. It is like you can retain the concepts for a longer duration. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, quantum computer is a new topic. Yeah, but ma'am, yeah, you will find it interesting. Slowly, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Even I also believe in that. If you write things, definitely you are gonna learn. And in slides also, like if I put like all this information on slides, and if I'm going faster, you do not have time to write things from slides, isn't it? Like whenever you try to copy from slide, it is more hectic because I will be moving from it suddenly. And when I am writing things, you're also writing things along with me and learning the things. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate. And yeah, and if anyone wants to like someone last time asked me query about the training session, my batch is going on. This is the first batch. There are 3 students. If more wants to join, I will be starting quantum algorithms from next week. Thank you, ma'am. I will be like starting with quantum teleportation, then super dense coding, then all the other algorithms, and in a bit more like detail. So if anyone wants to join, yeah, I shared the link already. So always welcome to join, and I will be happy to like proceed with the training. And we will also cover some applications on Qiskit. We will not use PennyLane. So there we will use Qiskit. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think we should now move towards the valedictory of this FDP. Will take hardly 5 minutes. Is it okay for all participants?
Yes, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So enjoy, sir.
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. So thank you
Yes,
very much,
sir.
dear all.
Just last
Yeah.
question, sir. Sorry,
Yeah.
sir. Last question. Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, actually, you do not need a electronics background. Actually, I am from ECE background. Okay, and I am like more from signal processing and wireless communication background. So I actually studied 5G technology and all those stuff like 3 years back at IIT Kanpur. I went and I studied all those stuff. No, it's more than three years. It's more than 3 years, of course. But you do not really need electronics background. If you have just some knowledge of mathematics, basic computer science, I think that's enough, and some basic physics. Yeah, definitely. Quantum computing is actually about, it is about computer science only. We just combined the physics part with the computer science. That's it. Nothing big we did. We just combine that. It's like, interdisciplinary. Just as every research is interdisciplinary, we take ideas from other fields and convert it into some other field to develop, like, novel algorithm, or maybe some new discoveries. So this is also very similar like that, the same stuff. So I hope, yeah, okay, yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, yes, sir. You can proceed, sir.
Okay, okay,
Sorry,
okay.
sir. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, again for such a wonderful session. So on behalf of all participants, we are very much thankful to you. We are at the end of this 5 days Atal FTP on quantum artificial intelligence. And I'm very happy today to deliver the vote of thanks in this validatory session. So on this occasion, first of all, I must extend my sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Anupam Shukla, sir, our Honorable Director, IIIT Pune, for giving his full support and attention for organizing this FTP on such a cutting edge technology and emerging trend, quantum artificial intelligence, for providing his precious time and for being there for everything about this FTP. So this really would not have been possible without sir's continuous support and motivation. I'm very much thankful to respected director and team members of Atal Academies AICT. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ravindra Kumar Soni sir, Director Atal Academy, and Dr. Giridhari Lal Garg sir, Assistant Director Atal Academies AICT, for accepting our proposal and giving us such a golden opportunity to arrange the FDP on the emerging trend of technology. So we were having 11 resource persons with us. Professor Prasanta K. Panigrahi from IISER Kolkata, Dr. Kiran Kumar Amireddy, research engineer from IIT Madras, Dr. B.S. Harish, professor from JSS Science and Technology University, Professor Dr. Siddharth Bhattacharya from Rajanagar Mahavidyalay, West Bengal, Dr. Manish K. Gupta from Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Gujarat, Dr. Debanjan Kunar, researcher from IIT Delhi, Mr. Srinjoy Ganguly sir, from the IBM quantum developer and the founder and CEO of Adroit Era, Dr. Debashish Das sir from IIT Jodhpur, Mr. Amit Saxena from SIDAC Pune, and Mr. Himanshu Nagarkar from the Art of Living Group. So I must say thanks, and I'm very much thankful to all guest speakers or resource persons to this FTP for guiding us on this emerging topic. Next, I would like to congratulate all the participants of this FTP. First of all, for being part of this FTP. And I'm very sure that this FTP will bring all of us together to form an impressive mixture of practitioners, researchers, industry professional and faculties from various institutes in the field of quantum artificial intelligence. So for some of you, it will be an opportunity to join with those who have been conducting research in this field. And for others, it is the opportunity to learn more about the advanced things about quantum artificial intelligence. And I'm very much sure that the exchange between participants, all resource persons and faculties during this 5 days FDP will surely raise more awareness about the research and advances and give future directions in quantum artificial intelligence. And of course, I'm very much happy to say that we have achieved all the objectives of the FDP as far as the agenda of this FDP is concerned. So thank you very much, all of you. Thanks a lot for your kind support and attention, patience. So with this, now I would request all participants to share your feedback about this FDP on quantum artificial intelligence voluntarily. So please, you can unmute yourself and give your feedback to us. It really matters a lot, and it will help us in upcoming future in arranging the advanced level FDP on the same topic.
Thank you, Dr. Darshan, and the excellent lot of speakers we had. Really,
Yeah.
it was a wonderful session, and I was actually. I'm actually new to this field. I was doing something on IoT and AI, but I was not aware of quantum. So this particular FDP really was an eye opener that there is so much more to learn. There is so much more to seek in terms of research and things like that. So really, it was an excellent session and very worthful 5 days of my life. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Darshan
Thank you,
sir.
Professor Rajiv Iyer. Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, sir, very interesting session, and I'm here at the computer science department actually, and I'm running projects for the final year students, and this is totally relevant. Apart from that, my own work is on bioinformatics and quantum mechanics, so that's interesting session because
Okay.
till now I had learned about in my days in BITS Pilani, I had learned about statistical quantum mechanics, and I had some notion, but sir explained all the sessions was so great, and they explained it so simply. I think that was the best part. That apart from practical, we learned many, especially by sir and Amit sir, and session that today Gopika ma'am took. At least about variations of this, the idea is changing. But I would also like to welcome you, all of you, if you are interested, sometime to organize something on ACM. We have an ACM chapter for students, IEEE also here
Okay.
in Lucknow. So I think we will be honored to have you people be connected to you people and do a lot of research actually.
Okay.
Because currently I'm working on a cancer model and pattern recognition using AI. So that is my field of work actually. So I'm very thankful to you, sir, for organizing this FDP. A lot to learn, and I think all of us have really enjoyed the session. All the sessions were excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Professor Jayant Mishra,
Good
thank you
afternoon,
so much.
sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shanupriya from Coimbatore. It is a new topic to me. Why I registered for this FTP is one of my scholars is doing research in quantum computing. He told that quantum computing qubits and other words are new to me. So in order to know the concept of quantum computing and all, I have registered this FTP. It is a very useful and informative session to me. Thank you. Thank you for organizing such FTP, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Good
you, madam.
afternoon, sir. I just want to share that while pursuing my PhD, I was having this idea in my mind. I want to implement quantum cryptography to give a security solution, but I was finding it very difficult because I was not aware of quantum mechanics and all because I'm not from that background. And this is only the thing which has attracted me to join this FDP. And today I am realizing after this 5 days of FDP that definitely there is so many number of things which I have to learn, and definitely because of various different sessions and so much of knowledge which I gained through this FDP, might be in future I'll be able to implement what is there at the back of my mind. So thanks a lot, sir. And it's a wonderful session, very interesting session, and all speakers were very good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, madam, for your appreciation. Thank you.
Generally, sir, we are having FDPs where we are just at the attendees and we are not really involved. But this was the FDP I attended, which was really means really they were teaching and we were involved. And Adroit sir, a very nice way of teaching. So
Thank you so much,
really
ma'am.
appreciate his way. This is a really very nice way to teach the teachers.
Yes.
Not only teachers, ma'am, but this is for everyone, even industry professionals. I taught business professionals, okay, how they should deliver value in business. This is for everyone. And I think everyone should use, some pen and tablet and write the things. Sometimes in slide it becomes boring. I have realized it. That's why I
Yeah,
avoid
really, in
slide.
last 2 years, we are facing the same issue and we are teaching the students. I have been teaching since last 12 years, but still I found something to add in my lectures from Android sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, I am
Even
also, I should not hide, I am also a bit lazy, so I don't want to make slides. I want to write things, yeah. I prefer that, like, it is much more comfortable for me rather than making slides.
Thank you,
even
sir.
I
Very well.
liked it, and
Yes,
even
ma'am. Thank
today,
you, ma'am.
like I also keep on making notes again and again. I'm very much in habit of writing the things, so I really appreciate the way you just taught us and the way you have explained everything in a practical way. It's very very
Yes, ma'am. You will
interesting.
retain it for a very long time, and your
Yes, yes,
understanding will be much more better than others. You can now explain
right,
it to a kid also, a nursery kid also. You can explain what is a CNN and how the matrices are being processed, even though they doesn't know the maths. Like that's the thing. What I get by writing, we can explain in
right,
different things. Perspective changes. That's the thing.
right, right. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank
And
you, sir.
even
Thank you, ma'am.
my research is in predictive modeling, but still I thought after attending this FDP that yes, I will study for
Good
quantum
afternoon,
and I
sir.
will proceed in that direction.
Yes, ma'am.
That's really nice, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Any other participants want to share
Good
feedback?
afternoon, sir.
Welcome. Yes, sir. Professor Nya Ranjan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir, each and every session of your FDP was very nice, and proper attention was given to each and every session, including the last session of yesterday. I have attended many FDPs, but this is full of practical approach, and it inspired some, not including me, but other persons also to the research field of quantum computing. I have studied about quantum computing in engineering physics in BTech first semester, and that was the basic funda of quantum computing. But during the 4 days FDP, I got depth knowledge regarding quantum computing and how it can be applicable to many fields of engineering.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and thank you for giving efficient faculties and efficient research persons. Each and every
Yes, sir.
research person, including the last session of emotional intelligence. Very
Yes.
nice and full of contents. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much, sir. Thank you. Any other participants? Please.
Sir,
Volunteer
good
feedback.
afternoon. Vaishali
Good
here,
afternoon,
sir.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good
This
afternoon.
topic was totally new for me, sir, and I learned. I read it so many times, but I didn't understand. But now, at least I will read. I have that concept in my mind, how to study and what they explained. It was very, very fruitful for me, and I wanted to learn this quantum, sir. Quantum control, I heard so many times. So it was very, 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 very informative, and it was very much knowledgeable for me, sir. So I will, I'm doing my, I pursue my PhD topic, but I like this topic very much. And thank you, thanks a lot for organizing such a informative ability, sir. You took so many efforts, and it's very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Vaishali ma'am, for your appreciation. Again, we have feedback in the chat box also. I think by Professor DVS Nagendra Kumar, Nanda Ashwin. Yes. Professor
Hello.
Pallavi Kulkarni. Yeah. Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, Professor Darshan, congratulations for conducting such a good workshop. I
Thank you so
understand
much, sir. Thank you.
pain of conducting with such good resource persons. And actually, I have been working on quantum machine learning since 2-3 years now.
Okay.
So I work with Regity and everything. So,
Okay.
but these sessions of Adroit Chinjoy was very, very good actually. Like I re-understood
Thank you
certain
so much,
things which
ma'am.
I had conceptions actually. So I was just thinking, because I had got some projects done. I work on accelerators a lot. So quantum accelerators is something which is of interest to me. So
Yes.
I used to work on GPUs and HPC a lot. So this was a very good like recapitulating session with certain misconceptions which I had got corrected because of Srinjoy sir's and Gopika madam's talks in so many days. So thank you very much for conducting such a
Thank you, sir.
Thank
it
you,
was
sir.
very nice, and this habit of writing and doing things, we teachers should actually practice. These slides have actually reduced the. They have trivialized the methodology of teaching. Actually, that's what I also
Exactly.
feel. It was very good and very nice. Thank you so much, Darshan sir, for conducting such a nice
Yes.
workshop. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
I see the once when you sent the first message that you were fortunate enough to be shortlisted for this FDP.
Okay.
It has become true today. It was really we are fortunate enough to have such a session. All the sessions were sequenced in a beautiful manner, and some core sessions were there, which the scattered sessions came together, and it was sequenced in a proper manner. And Sujay sir's, the Android sirs or Sujay sir, what are Sujit? No, I don't.
Srinjoy, sir. Srinjoy.
Srinjoy sir's sessions were also very good, and I think.
Thank you, sir.
We have to do a lot of work on this. It is not enough just attending the sessions and finishing off and saying congratulations and all.
It's all name.
Yeah, it is to actual practical implementation. Actually, the success of the session depends on us. I think it is not dependent on the Darshan sir. How you practically implement and involve yourselves in the quantum computing, that becomes very relevant. The workshops will give us the guidelines, I believe. So to work on guidelines and work hard to make this workshop a success. So I think it is already a success because all have positive inputs they have given, and it's true also. It is factual presentation. Nothing falsification is not there to praise or appreciate anyone. The fact is the workshop is a success. It has become a success. So congratulations to Darshan sir for organizing. One small request is whenever you shortlist the participant, kindly put that in WhatsApp group. First day you include us in the WhatsApp group. We missed 1 or 2 sessions. I think that I wanted to, because you communicate both through sometimes through mail and sometimes through WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is the ideal one. I think that will be the contact point for each one of us. So that will be helpful for all of them not to miss any sessions if they want to attend.
Sure, sir. Sure.
And congratulations to IIT Pune also for making this a grand success. Thank you, sir.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, we have feedbacks in chat box too. Professor Nanda Ashwin says, due to network issues, I am unable to speak. It was great interactive session and helpful for other research work to share our knowledge to other scholars. Okay. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your appreciation. Thank you. Anybody else wants to share? Else, we can stop here now, I think. Okay. So once again, on behalf of organizers and IIT Pune, I'm very much thankful to all attendees and all resource persons. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
And on behalf of all the participants, we propose Darshan sir a vote of thanks and all the organizers of IIT Pune, and also our last lecture which was given by sir, and all the faculty resource persons who are involved in this particular workshop and put their heart and soul. I believe that each and everyone has put his heart and soul in this particular delivery of lecture. It was full of informative and brainstorming sessions. Everyone has put his 100% effort to deliver the lecture. Everyone was content-filled lectures. Each and every lecture was content-filled, sir. So congratulations. You also were in track with us. not leaving us in any way to deviate from this particular workshop, and whatever the requirements were met, I think, by each and every individual. You want PPTs, you have given it. You want that they wanted the recordings, and you are providing those things, and whatever the things were required, and you gave enough opportunities, to equal opportunities and enough opportunity for all of them to interact, irrespective of time or what are the time bounds are there. You never stopped anyone. Congratulations, and on behalf of all the faculty members, academicians, IT industry people who attend this particular workshop, I propose vote of thanks on behalf of them, sir, to you. And I'm not able to spell the word.
Srinjoy, sir. Yeah, not a problem, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
To you, Srinjoy, sir, and in absentia to all of the resource persons, we propose the vote of thanks on behalf of our all attendees here. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Sanjay Kalath, sir. Thanks a lot for your appreciation. Thank you very much. It means a lot for me. Thank you. So thank you all, and see you at 3 p.m. For a short quiz. So we are going to have a short test for 30 minutes at 3 today. So please join through Google Meet. Again, the meeting details will be shared shortly through WhatsApp group. So please be there for the quiz and for filling the feedback forms. So thank you once again, all of you. Thank you, Srinjoy, sir.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, sir, like really for having me, and it was really nice to interact and learn from everyone. Everyone has, like, those research interests, which, yeah, I have read a bit of papers and all those stuff. So yeah, it was really nice. Like someone said that they are working on IoT. So I have recently also got to know that even quantum IoT is also there. So people are actually applying quantum processing for IoT devices. So, like now you can, take this direction to anywhere, wherever you are doing research, either medical, finance, everywhere. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, sir.